DoggieDiamondsTV.com.
Hey, what's up? This is Doggie Diamonds for DoggieDiamondsTV.com. I found the ZaZa Ali footage that I took when she was at Nicholas, Brooklyn. This is prior to any situations between her and Professor Griff. I have nothing to do with that. I thought the information was dope. I bought the book, I read the book, I liked the book, so I'm putting the footage out. Peace, watch it, share, like, comment, whatever you want to do. Like I said, this is prior to any of those situations, but I still like the information and the message, so I'm putting the footage out anyway. Peace.
I've been through some things.
Been state property.
You know what I'm saying? And I take ownership of that because it's all of that that has me right here with this microphone in my hand right now. King Simon will tell you, Griff will tell you, and anybody that's really doing this work that have dedicated themselves to their people, this process comes with a lot of pain. I grew up as a motherless child. My father was really not in my life full time the way I needed him to be. I went and lived with different people in my family. A lot of people let me down. A lot of people abandoned me. I went through the foster care system for a short amount of time. My father left me in a house with his girlfriend who was a crack addict. As the neighbor called the police, we were in there for 3 days with no food. The neighbor called the police. I ended up in a foster care home for 2 weeks. So I've been through a lot of things, but it has shaped and molded my heart to the point where I'm empathetic to the struggle of the young brothers and sisters that's coming up. And I see where I could have took when the fork in the road came during my life, when I could have easily went left. But because the ancestors were guiding me and because my father thankfully put me in an African Center school, in elementary school, that kind of set the tone for me. Also growing up in Oakland and growing up in the shadows of the Black Panther Party was really instrumental for me because I knew before I even knew that I had a responsibility to our people, that I had a responsibility to our people. So the book, man, we've been through so much in the past year. My son is in California. I've never been away from him for this amount of time. So coming to the East Coast, doing all of this traveling, it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. It's wear and tear on the spirit. You have people emotionally and mentally attacking you that don't even know you, telling lies.
Yes.
I've gotten sick, physically sick, numerous times when I've been on the road. So it's just been a lot of things. And then of course we're doing a show, so I'm constantly taking in new information, constantly wanting to add more and more to the book. I'm like, hold on, ZaZa, you gotta stop. Do a part 2. But because there's so much I want to tell you, even today with this lecture, I had to just stop because there is so much that I want to tell. Why are you looking at me like that, bro? Oh, okay. Well, Ootson, the brother that just left, he actually designed my cover. This is it and it. Hopefully he can bring it back so we can at least let you guys know. Straight out of Brooklyn, you know, very talented brother. Okay, yes, he's bringing him and his queen April back. Give his brother a round of applause. One of our African griots / artists. I don't even remember how we came across. I think he sent me a message and said, yeah, I'm Ootson, this is my website, whatever. And at first I, busy, didn't check it out. And then when I went back to the site and checked it out, I was like, whoa. Stopped me in my tracks. This is a very powerful, powerful brother. And we went back and forth on the concepts and what I wanted and this and that, that whole creative process. But when he finished with it, it was so perfect. Not because it was perfect, but because it was me. It's everything that I wanted to convey. The hardness in the face, that represents where I come from. You know what I'm saying? I got waves, so you see the shine in here a little something, But it's very reflective of what I wanted to speak to the people. So I just want to thank you, brother. And you see me back here going from Little Ginger, which is who I originally was, to the Queen Goddess, which I am striving to be. Brother, I thank you so much. Make sure you support the work, book covers, magazines, anything that you have that needs a creative edge to it. This is Brother Ootson. Give him your website and your contact information.
And I got some calling. And my website is zen.com. Go there, you can see my work, my contact number, and everything on there is on there. Facebook, everything. All right.
You gotta give me some brochures so I can travel. You can have them for the people when they ask me, because I get so many compliments on it, and
Okay.
I have to pay credit where credit's due. All right, brother. All right, and that's his Queen April over there. Always a strong sister. Staying behind God, so people can stand as well. All right, I know he came to snatch y'all up. It's great being grateful. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. That's something that I always talk about when I was talking about this last night. I did a lecture called Black Youth in Peril. We have to find a way to tap into the creative mindset of our children and find ways like art, like poetry, like rap, like hip hop, to tap back into their creative minds. They're not going to be what we were when we were coming up. We got to dead that.
Yes.
We want them to live and mold themselves and shape themselves for what we were. And that's just not reality. I'm going to talk about a brother at the end of my lecture who, right here in New York, started a pawn shop with his sneakers. So we got to kind of start taking their greatness and their abilities and what they love and tapping into that. My son loves basketball, you know. I'm waiting for him to read $40 Million Slave so he can see the background to basketball. But in the meantime, what I look like trying to squash his dreams because, Kobe Bryant might be, you know what I'm saying, a little salty. And a lot of these brothers, have lost their testicular fortitude, as Minister Farrakhan would say. Yes, but we have to find a way to tap into the greatness of our young people, and that's something that I deal with in the book. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I want to apologize that it's not here, but like I said, I didn't want to put anything out. I didn't want to just put fluff out. I wanted to put my best into it, and after you finish reading the severity of the issues that we are facing and the seriousness of the problems that we are facing, because I don't think most of us really understand the severity of the issues that we're facing right now. The sky literally has become our enemy by way of our enemies. The food that we eat has become our enemies by way of our enemies, right? And everything affects melanated people differently. People ask me all the time, well, you always talk about chemtrails, why would they spray themselves? It doesn't affect Europeans the way that it affects us. We need the sun. And if they're constantly blocking it out, they know exactly what it is that they're doing. So I have a whole chapter on the scientific intervention in our affairs because it is my perspective that the majority of things that we are suffering right now is a direct reflection of a scientific war that has been waged on us for over 100 years now. How do you combat a scientific war? By becoming scientists, right? So we got to get our science on. So what I'm going to do is just go through a couple of things. These are all the different sections and the different chapters in the book. First section is Plagues of Dysfunction. We have Black Girl Loss. We have all the single ladies, woman versus woman. This is something that is a serious issue with us as black women. The inability, and this is not all of us, but a lot of us, to see a beautiful sister walk into the room and not be able to applaud her and to praise her because you see something in her that you lack. But we're so focused on competing with our sisters that we can't even recognize the beauty and the brilliance of our own selves. Every woman in this room has something that I don't have. You are great at something that I have no clue about. We have to start uplifting one another as women, as sisters. Because I can tell you in no uncertain terms, I've been hurt by every black man that has been in my life in one way or another. And that's just keeping it 100, and it started with my father. There should have been women around me when I was coming up at 10, at 13, at 15, at 17, at 21, that stopped me and said, hold on, slow down, slow your roll, you're doing too much, that's not the way to go about that, and they didn't. And I had older sisters in my family and older sisters in the community that saw me sliding, and they pushed me out the door.
Wow.
So that I could slide all the way. So us as women, we have to take account for our issues that we have with other women. And brothers, y'all kind of, you know, you guys magnify those issues. Red bone versus thick versus all these comments that you refer to black women as. It's crazy. And we're competing now, getting butt shots and face. You know, I saw a tutorial online, the sisters when they put their makeup on. You don't look nothing when you wake up like you look when you walk out the door. Who are you? And I ask that in all sincerity. Who are you really? If you got to do all of that to walk out the door, this is a real issue with our sisters. So I say there's a lot of catty, childish women out here, and they are giving them a big spotlight on TV, and it's making it hard for all of the sisters. But I love you. Dark skin, brown skin, light skin, freckles, afro, twists, dreadlocks.
Weave.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Weave, yes. The sisters was rocking wigs and Kemet to keep it 100.
Okay.
So,
That's good comeback.
How you doing, Queen? How are you? Yeah, so that whole idea of woman versus woman, the white man's nigga. Our request as sisters to be independent and to financially take care of ourselves as well as our children, we kind of got lost a little bit in this whole idea of pursuing career over family.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that you can't pursue a career. It just means what's most important, family. And we move under that premise. Now we have sisters who are like, I don't want children, I don't want to be married, I just want to get my money. Yeah, that's cool for you, but you need to kind of keep it quiet when the young sisters walk into the room, because that's not the ideal that we're trying to give them of what womanhood is.
Yes.
You do not fully, and I bear witness, you do not fully come into womanhood until you have a child. It's an actual fact. And if you haven't experienced that, then you can't understand it. But I'm telling you, the whole idea of your body completely submitting itself to another person is such a humbling experience. The woman's body turns into a full-fledged life support system for another person.
Yes.
Do you understand the science of that? When you sun gaze, right? This is our ancient science. When you put your feet into the grass and you stare into the sun, that you are actually tapping into the heartbeat of the earth, right?
Yes.
Well, breastfeeding is not only to nourish the child as far as food is concerned. The child is in rhythm with the mother's heartbeat. So as you are breastfeeding, that child not only has to get food every certain amount of time, but it also has to be in harmony with that heartbeat in order to form itself, to form its brain, to form its DNA and a genetic structure as the child. The process doesn't finish when it's in the womb. And motherhood, that touch. When I was going through my trial, I was going to all my court cases by myself, and I had a brother who, he liked me, but he said he was coming to show support for me. And I was in San Francisco. I'm in this huge courtroom. You know, that's part of their science. They make the courtrooms look scary, and their buildings look real big. That goes back to Rome, so that you'll be scared to even confront them before you even have to confront them. So I'm in the courtroom, and the brother was there, and he put his arm around me.
Wow.
And when I tell you that it released such a load off my shoulders just from somebody putting their arm around me. So the whole idea of sun gazing and putting your feet in the dirt or in the grass or in the sand to go back and make that connection with the planet, it's the same thing with physical touch. It's the same thing with breastfeeding. The next aspect is housewife equals hell. How did being a housewife become hell? How did making dinner for your family become a burden? How did pleasing your children and your husband become something that we shun when we want to be pleased? We want to be respected, but we don't respect our men. We want to be valued, but we don't value our children. I see so many sisters, the way they handle their children.
It's crazy.
It takes everything in me to not get involved, to not say something. So this whole idea, Frances Cress Welsing in her book talks about the fact that children cannot have children. We have generations of children who are emotionally and spiritually bankrupt because their parents didn't have it to give it to them.
No.
I was 26 when I had my son. I can't imagine being 16 or 17 or 15. So when we do have sisters and cousins and nieces in our families who are going through that, we got to step in. We can't just leave them on their own. We have to step in. So the whole idea of being a housewife, keeping a clean house. How you gonna be a black woman and have a filthy house? Takia's, this sister right here, Professor Griff's daughter, beautiful daughter.
Wow.
House is impeccable, clean. Like seriously, that represents the clarity in your mind, in your thoughts, right? Female supremacy, feminism, I'm not going to get into that, but this is a man's world. I'm trying to figure out at what point we started to develop women who started blaming women for everything. We got sisters out here now that's blaming the black woman for everything that's wrong in the black community. Word? And I see them and they have the fanfare and the brothers who support them, which is cool. But that's not my eye. We didn't come over here on the ships by ourselves. Matter of fact, you allowed us to be taken. We've been in our communities being unprotected for how long now? And everything is the black woman's fault? We have to bring balance to these conversations. And then I don't want to say anything because I don't want it to seem like I'm anti this sister and anti that sister. So I just have to use my voice to get my point across. But stop that. Being cheerleaders for these brothers, part of our role, yes, is nurturing and comforting and compassion, but part of our role is to challenge these brothers. And they need it. And they'll tell you without telling you. And I know the brothers don't want to hear that, but it is what it is. I love y'all. A people of sport and play, the worship of sports culture. I'm going to show you some slides of the number of television networks now that are dedicated to sports. If you go to a hotel now, remember back in the day it used to be HBO, Showtime, they would have like 3 or 4 movie channels. They got like 10 sports channels now, just in the hotel room. What is that about? The control and manipulation of human consciousness. If you want to attack the black community, when is the best day to do it?
Sunday.
Sunday. Why? Church and football. You can set your watch by it. Economics or lack thereof, living in a material world, clubbing, shopping, and playing. Every day is a holiday. I went to Freaknik when I was young. I went to, what's the one in Galveston? Juneteenth. I've been to All-Star weekends. I've been to Super Bowl, even though I didn't go. I went to, be a part of it. I've been to all of these different events. And what I talk about in the book is when I sit back and think about how much money we actually put into these different cities every time we travel there. Hotel, airfare. You're going to spend $200 in the club if you go to All-Star Weekend. You're going to pay $100 to get in the event.
Yes.
So this whole idea of we say we want to be economically free, but of the amount of money that we put into this society is insane. That's not even including the byproduct of our culture. You got NBA, I was reading the top 10 Adidas catalog. All the brothers in there were black. Pharrell, Noah, what's his name? The real light-skinned dude. Noah's son, he plays for somebody, I don't know, I'm out of touch. But
Joakim Noah.
yes, what is it?
Joakim Noah.
Joakim Noah, Snoop Dogg, all the brothers in there were black. And of course they got endorsements with Adidas. But think about how much money just them representing the brand actually brings in. Hollywood. Black people are obsessed with celebrities.
Yes. Yes.
We sat in a restaurant in Washington, D.C. the other night and listened to 3 black women talk about Rihanna and Beyonce for 45 minutes. I kid
Don't get
you
me
not.
started. Don't get me started.
He had to almost handcuff me from getting up and saying something. 45 minutes. What the hell is that about? Artificial intelligence, this whole idea of right now we are moving towards, the white man basically thinks he is the most superior aspect of humanity right now. That's what the whole concept of evolution and Darwinism is. So if he's the highest ordeal or the highest evolution of mankind, then right now he's trying to morph himself with the computer to become the new human being / robot. This is why all of your electronics right now are moving you towards that, whether you know it or not.
Yes.
All of the movies right now are moving us towards it, whether we know it or not. So artificial intelligence, when you go into your computer and you Google something, and you put one word in and the whole phrase that you were thinking pops up, they're studying you. They're studying the things that you search online. They're studying the things that upset you. You go on Facebook and say, I'm happy today because, okay, she's happy today, she's sad tomorrow. Why is she sad tomorrow? Why is she happy today? They're absolutely studying us. And those of us who are conscious, most in particular, because we represent the revolution, the liberation of our people, because when our people are free, all people will be free.
Yes.
So be mindful what you put on social networks. You have a fight with your girl, you ain't got to put it online. Be even keel with what you present to the world. Not because you fronting, but because you playing chess.
Yes.
TV is your daddy. Empire.
Oh, scandal. Scandal.
Scandal. It's your dad. It's telling you how to think, how to relate to people. Olivia Pope is fly. She dresses well. She's a businesswoman. She's beautiful. A lot of women want to resonate with that. But what's the flip side? We can put the flip, we don't really deal with the flip side.
Yep.
Because there's something about her that we want to be. We've missed the point of the homosexual couple on the show with the black child. The devil will tell you 90% truth to tell you a 10% lie. So the white couple with the black baby is what they're really pushing. Everything else is just kind of, to keep you mentally stagnated. Tupac versus Biggie.
Oh, God. Yes.
All right, you already know where I'm going with this, but it's not really about Tupac versus Biggie. It's the idea of Tupac representing the oxymoron or the two aspects of the black man right now. Thug life versus being a revolutionary. Brenda's Got a Baby versus
How do you want it?
How do you want it, or I Get Around. Exactly. A lot of our brothers are struggling with that right now. There's a argument that Biggie is the best lyricist of all times. But have you ever really just sat back and studied Biggie Small's lyrics?
Yeah.
That brother said some stuff that was savage.
Yes.
I mean savage.
I suck on your daddies.
Suicide.
You're in Brooklyn. You're about to tell you. You're in
In
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn to keep it 100.
Yeah.
You in this
You
hood.
recognize real, right? Biggie represents a very powerful aspect of what we can be creatively, but he also represents the nigga aspect in our community that we gotta kill.
I blame Diddy.
You're going to blame Diddy. No.
Diddy is another story. Reality bullshit. Of course, that's reality TV, but I go into all of the sisters. And Griff, actually, I watched him do this in his lecture one day, where he talks about all the black women who are greenlighting a lot of these projects in the background.
Yes.
All right? So this is sisters killing and destroying the idea of what it means to be a black woman. And then we got sisters taking up for them. What's wrong with Atlanta Housewives? A sister told me one time, Atlanta Housewives has a doctor on there, a supermodel, and calling out the career. I said, well, why are they on the show?
Point.
Black Holocaust is section 2, Black Youth in Peril number 1. Black and Missing. In 2011, 170,000 black children went missing. And yesterday in my lecture, I played a clip of a guy named Ted Gunderson, who was the former head of the FBI. And Ted Gunderson, when he started to, after he retired, he became a private investigator, and people started to come with him and ask him to get involved in their cases. He found out that the CIA was involved in child sex trafficking.
Yes.
He said that, remember back in the day when they had the children on the milk cartons?
Yes.
He said they were finding too many of those children, and that's why they stopped doing that. But there was a school in Manhattan Beach, California, where the children told their parents that the teachers, as well as other people, were doing satanic cult rituals underneath the school.
Just like music company.
And that, exactly, and they were sacrificing children. So when it got, went public, they said they filled the tunnels up with dirt, and Ted Gunderson went and dug out the tunnels and actually has pictures and everything in the clip that he shows on, one of the clips he shows on YouTube, where they actually found the tunnels and found pendulums, satanic pendulums engraved into the walls. This was back in the 1980s, and this was in Manhattan Beach, California. So you could imagine if they snatch a child from Brooklyn, what they're doing. The mother, one of the mothers, she wrote a book called Where is Peter, if I remember correctly. She said her son was snatched. She could never find him. None of the law enforcement would get involved in her case. But she was so adamant. One day her son showed up at her house 14 years later and told her to stop looking for him, that he had been kidnapped and taken to a mountainside retreat in the hills, and that they had used him as a sex slave. And if you remember, as of late, Bill Clinton has been in the news for being connected to a billionaire pedophile. We looking up at these people like they're gods, and they are savages in $2,000 and $3,000 Armani suits, on jets and planes, and they look like they are these amazing people, and they are wicked to the core. So all of our children going missing. Disciplining children on social media, I got a problem with that. You're not going to embarrass a child into doing right. I saw this woman whoop her daughter so bad online. We've lost control of our households. So now we think we're going to shame our children into doing right. That's not the way to do it. Because as soon as she gets out of your control, she's going to do what she wants to do anyway. They're people. They have feelings. They deserve to be respected. But we have to enforce that in our household. We should be teaching these lessons at 2 and 3 that we try to teach at 16 and 17 and then wonder why we can't handle them anymore. Juvenile detention. I taught in a juvenile detention center in San Leandro for 3.5 years, volunteered on Sundays. And the condition of black boys right now is so scary. They can't sit still. They can't look you in the eye. A lot of them can't read. I had a 6'2" young brother almost break down in tears. I had to pull him in the back room and check him for the way he was handling a sister. He started crying in the back room. Looked like a big teddy bear. So emotionally unable to express himself. Knowing that he's supposed to have a connection with this black woman because she got attitude and disrespected herself. If they were probably in another room, he probably would have put his hands on her. Our young men have serious emotional and spiritual and mental issues that brothers, y'all gonna have to step in and help them. I know some of them are too far gone, but a lot of them can be saved. College, the ultimate tool of racism, white supremacy. You have to take a certain amount of classes before you can even start working towards your own degree. You have to take anthropology. They have to teach you that you came from a monkey for you to get your degree. You have to, well, I had to study Greco and Roman art.
Wow.
and Greek and Egyptian art, which they, of course, they made look real white, but
yes.
This is part of the tool that they are using right now. And the people among us, Griff said, the people who have the degrees are the ones who are running the world. So why isn't the world in the condition that it's in? So in the book, I basically talk about advising young people Go to community college for 2 years. Don't take on that debt. Get those general classes without taking on any debt before you go to school. You don't go to college to learn, to figure out who you are. You will get lost. We go to college to get away from our families and to try to figure out who we are. Black Holocaust, of course, the prison industrial complex. The whole idea of brothers being in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day for 10 and 15 years. Can you imagine?
Yes.
The whole culture of rape. Black men being raped. Not just by other inmates, but by prison guards. Where's the programs for them? How do you talk to a man like that who's supposed to come out, who has children, and is supposed to be a productive member of society, and he's broken? And that has, I don't want to say a lot, but it definitely has something to do with this homosexual culture that we're dealing with right now. Money in and no money out. The idea that you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars for some corporation while you're in there and then you come out broke, that's a problem. Gentrification, Oakland, Harlem, DC, and Detroit are the cities that I spotlight. Like I said, I grew up in Oakland, California, always a predominantly black city. Now, but it's like, at what point did the change start to happen and we just kind of sat back and didn't do anything about it? This is why we have to, and this Nicholas Bookstore is a prime example, we have to own our spots. This is when going to like Detroit and Baltimore, and you go to these different cities and they look a mess. We have to start going back to those cities and start buying up that property that nobody wants, because the white boys and those Asians are buying it. Baltimore, certain areas of Washington, D.C., Oakland, you ain't getting nothing for less than $250,000. Nothing. Brooklyn, exactly. So we're going to kind of start having to migrate to different parts of the country where we can really make an impact as a community and not just as individuals. The projects. Do you know that they use certain type of paint and certain type of lighting in the projects in order to affect your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself?
Yes.
And if you think about it, if you've ever been in more than one project community, they all on the inside look the same. They place the windows in a specific place in your apartment. They put certain lights, fluorescent lights. They use certain colors that they know is going to have a negative impact on you.
Looks like a prison.
It looks like a prison. It is a prison.
It is a prison.
The whole science behind creating a place like that, and then once it's like they hold the land with projects, and then once they're ready to take it over, they take it over and send you to the outskirts. Where you're not around your culture, you're not around your people, you're totally ostracized. Then what do? Hurricane Katrina, lesson not learned, self-explanatory. We had brothers and sisters standing on rooftops, swinging t-shirts saying, "Help me." That was one of the most trying things for me, watching that take place. And I was young at the time, and I wasn't as developed mentally as I am now, but just the whole idea of seeing our people so helpless like that. They did that for a reason. They put that on the air around the world for a reason. They have slowly, methodically been setting up a reason to take our people out. And they're showing the world why nobody should intervene when they do. St. Louis and Monsanto, David and Goliath, they've been poisoning the people in St. Louis for a long time now. When we went to St. Louis, I was like, something is not right here.
Hey, thank you for watching. Don't leave without subscribing. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.